Can you hear me?
Yes. All right, Mr. Nykamp, I'm assuming you're here for cutting edge excavating?
Yep.
All right. So this is a citation that was issued on April 24th of this year on I-196 there at Casco Township, Allegan County, state of Michigan. This is for an overweight citation. You're here, sir, on this citation to do one of three things. First is you could admit responsibility to the citation, or two, admit responsibility, but you'd like to provide some sort of explanation as to how or why this happened. Or three, you wish to contest this citation. In other words, contest this ticket at what we call informal hearing. What were you looking to do?
Contest it.
All right, then I'm going to go ahead and ask anyone who might be testifying here, go ahead and raise their right hand. Swear or affirm anything you testify to here today would be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
All right. Mr. Nykamp, what do you do for cutting edge excavating?
Owner and operations manager, vice president.
All right, so it makes a lot more sense for me to start with the officer. Motor carrier officer here has the burden to establish to me why they issued a citation in the first place. But after that, you'll have an opportunity to either ask questions or testify on your own behalf. And with that, Officer Washer, you want to pick up the narrative somewhere it makes sense and explain the issuing of this citation?
Yes, sir. So I was sitting at the mile marker 22. I observed the commercial motor vehicle go by me with two lift axles up. I followed them all the way to the Casco rest area, which is at mile marker 27 with both lift axles still up. I initiated a traffic stop, and that is when the driver lowered the two lift axles. I asked him why he had those up. He said they were up the whole time, which is not true. And then we proceeded to weigh out the vehicle with the lift axles up as I observed it on the road. And he was over on his gross weight. So his actual gross weight was 100,400 pounds. His legal gross weight was at 89,000 pounds at the time. So he was over 11,400 pounds. I did advise him if he did have those lift axles down, he would have been at 110,500 pounds.
So the lift axle is an optional axle that's added onto a truck that helps carry the load. I'm not sure exactly what the purpose is that they're issuing a fine for, but from what I looked at, it helps fuel efficiency. It probably has something to do with not tearing up the road as much, but they can put that axle up and down so that extra wheel goes up and down depending on what the driver wants to do.
I believe. So he would have been good. But even when we were trying to do the area where we're doing the weight, checking his weight and everything, he was having trouble with the lift axles, like staying down and coming up. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right. And what is it you'd like to tell me, Mr. Nykamp?
So this trailer, I agree with what he said in regards to having trouble with the lift axles. This trailer apparently had a bad valve in it. The valve was repaired the next day. I think we have that work order here somewhere that it was repaired. So the switch, even though the axles in the down position were not down, apparently, as the officer indicated, he's seen them up during his transport. So, but the switch was down, and on these trailers, if there's a mechanical failure and the axle comes up during transport, a driver would have no way of knowing it. And that's what I was told is happening here. The axles were in operating order in the morning, and when he was loaded during his pre-trip, he indicated everything worked. And then some point down the road, he had a mechanical failure, and I do believe that at some point during the stop, the axles were down And the officer made him lift him in order to weigh him with him up, because that's how he's seen him going down the road. And at that time, the driver, Ryan, showed the officer that the switch, here's the switch, it's down, they're not going down, and they messed with it and got him to go up, actually, so that he could weigh him with him up because of the mechanic. He couldn't control him, is my point. When
All
they
right.
tried to scale
Well,
him, they were down.
essentially what you're doing here is providing a reason why you're overweight. You're not really contesting that you're overweight.
We weren't overweight. We would be at our weight or under our legal weight if the axles were down.
But they weren't.
They were, according to, they were when he left the facility.
Okay, but what you have a ticket for is when this officer observed the truck with those up, that you would have been carrying too much weight on those last two axles. You have an overweight ticket. So you're providing an explanation for how this happened, but you're not really saying it didn't happen. What I need to do is find whether or not you're responsible on this citation as it's written.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is, when we experience an equipment failure going down the road, I mean, if a tire blew, we'd be overweight, because then I can't legally scale the load, and I have no control over that. If the axle comes up, a driver, an owner, the guy that loaded them, the scale that we went across, none of that matters anymore if there's a mechanical failure. And when the axle was down, the officer made him lift him back up to weigh him.
Yeah, but we can't write a ticket to a piece of equipment. Essentially, you're driving around on the road with, you know what I mean? The damage is already happening.
From what I
You just don't want the
understand,
responsibility, right?
But from what I understand, talking to officers and lieutenants, they can write the ticket to PADNOS, to the people that own the equipment that have the mechanical failure, but they chose to write us a ticket after forcing us to lift our axle. They chose to write us an overweight ticket. In my driver's defense, he made sure his equipment worked when he left. Everything was in working order, and he made sure when he went across the scale that he was underweight.
We have a repair ticket for the leveling valve.
And when he goes down the road and there's an equipment failure with the trailer that we were contracted to pull, I'm having a hard time holding my driver responsible for doing his job when he was verified that it worked and verified that he was underweight.
All right, but the ticket's written to the company.
I understand that. And I would love it if it was written to PADNOS, which I was told, and maybe somebody can tell me if I'm wrong. They can write these tickets to the trailer, the owner of the trailer, instead of the carrier, if there's an equipment failure on behalf
Sure,
of
but
the
carrier's not supposed to be driving around unless the whole setup is in compliance. It's not. And that's what the officer observed, and that's why the officer wrote a citation. What I have to decide here is whether or not you're overweight on those three axles, while you're driving down I-196. I still haven't heard anything of why that wouldn't be the case. So for purposes of informal hearing, I would find you responsible on this. Now, you do have a right, because you had a contested hearing, to say, I don't agree with what that finding is. I want to take this to formal hearing in front of the district court judges with the prosecutor's office. You have every right to do that, and then you could perhaps negotiate with the prosecutor, but you must ask for that within 7 days of today's date, and you must ask for that in writing. Do you understand your rights on appeal?
Yeah.
All right. So we're all set for what we needed to do here today. I'm going to go ahead and release party.
Okay, you tell me who you think should be responsible and should get this ticket. And I believe this is a between $500 and $1,000 ticket. It's a pretty significant ticket from what I've seen. So should the driver be responsible because he was actually the one in control of the vehicle? Should the owner be responsible because it's technically a maintenance issue, you know, checking all of the things and maybe you needed to do that more frequently? The manufacturer because it's a defect in the truck, or no one? This is just a way for them to line their pockets. Let me know in the comments. I thought this one was kind of interesting. You guys might enjoy it. Sparks an interesting discussion. Have a great day.